everyone, and welcome to another episode of Taco Matta Tuesday, the show where we eat healthy, delicious tacos and have conversations about life. Until you step into the unknown, you will never know what you're made of. And that couldn't be a more true quote, because I lived that this very weekend. We're going to talk a little bit more about how I lived through that and what came for me on the other side of stepping into the unknown. But first, let's go ahead and talk about the healthy, delicious taco of the week. This weekend, after the competition, it was my birthday weekend. I turned 30. Yay, 30. Here we are. Woo. But I had a whole celebration of a weekend between competition and just all the things. But anyways, we got to try some incredible food trucks. And one of them was, I believe it was the G-Wagon, and it's a Philly cheesesteak thing. Granted, this was totally a splurge, but what I did come up with was an incredible Philly cheesesteak taco. So with that being said, you need to check out the show notes on this one, because this one was delicious and basically replicates what I had as a Philly cheesesteak on a sandwich. So, pretty darn good. If you're interested, which you should be, go check out the show notes before you leave the episode today. Alrighty, let's jump right into it. Today, the episode is about what comes from stepping into the unknown. I feel like the last couple of weeks have just been like this perfect like storyline buildup, where last week we talked about the time is now to like take the leap and do the thing and be the person that you're capable of. And this week is almost like a follow-up to that, right? Because stepping into the unknown is freaking scary. And I want to start off with sharing a story and what outcome came from stepping into the unknown, and that was doing the Cirrus Bricks competition over the last month and a half. So Cirrus Fitness is a gym that's up north in Frederick, Colorado. They specialize in hybrid racing, OCR, CrossFit, you name it. They kind of do a little bit of everything. And so I have been attending there as a member for a little while now, I'd say since at least February. And I had the owner of the gym come up to me and said, "Hey, I know you have a background in Ninja Warrior. I'm not sure if you've like looked into the competition series that we're running, but essentially we believe that a well-rounded athlete has 4 components. They're strong, they can endure a lot of volume, they're fast, and they have agility, which is essentially ninja." He goes, "I've been watching you train. I know what you're capable of, and I know of your background in ninja, and I think you'd be really good at this. Would you give it a shot?" And I was like, I don't know, like I'm specialized right now, like I'm going all in on DECA this year. I don't know if it makes sense for me to kind of get blindsided by different things. But I told him that I would think about it. And if I'm being quite honest, it wasn't necessarily like I have to stay specialized and focused on the main goal that was keeping me from it. I mean, that was maybe a small part of it, but a lot of it was just straight up fear. And just this idea of, well, what if I do this competition and what if I fail? Like, what if I make a complete like fool out of myself for even trying? And then I had to sit there and think of, okay, if I really want to practice what I preach and all this wisdom that I give to you guys from week to week, it's that all of the growth happens in the discomfort zone. And if this is where my fear is flaring, and if I feel uncomfortable, then that is exactly where it is that I need to be. And so I looked at the events, I saw the workouts, I saw one of them had to do with the box step overs, which is one of my favorite stations in DECA. And I was like, okay, the worst case scenario is I sign up for the open, I do the open, regardless if I make it or not, I can choose from there if I want to continue. Like, there literally is nothing to lose by doing it outside of like maybe 30 minutes to go and test in for these different workouts. And then if anything, I just get an extra workout that day. Like there's no risk in this, honestly. And so I ended up signing up for it. And within the first part of the open qualifiers, I was like, this is so much fun. Like, this is different than what I'm used to. Yes, I'm not like the best at everything, but like, I like this switch up. I like this challenge. And it just kind of grew from there to where I won the open. I won 3 out of 4 workouts. Then we went to semifinals. I won 3 out of 4 workouts. So at this point, I am now the number 1 seed going into championships. Guys, I was terrified signing up for this thing. Like when I pressed submit on my registration, like my stomach turned upside down and I was like, all right, decision's made. Like I just have to do the best I can with what I have available and not sit there and think that I have to have everything available right now, because that's just not how life, definitely not how an athletic career develops. Like, it's just not how that works. And so anyways, all of that to say, going into championship weekend, I was just so pleased with how far I had come in just a month of after saying yes to something that scared me. And I will tell you guys, it was not a give me. Like, there was definitely part of me that was like, okay, record has shown that this is mine to lose. I'm for sure the favorite going into this. But it's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new set of workouts. These girls, like, this could be all of their strengths, right? Granted, I see a lot of strengths in me for a lot of these workouts, but it could get hard. And that's exactly what it got, was hard. Is they came and they threw down, and it was such a fun thing to do. It was also very exhausting. But what it came down to was this back-to-back battle with me and this other girl. We were battling for first place, and I ended up winning the whole series. And I just like reflected on the whole thing. And I was like, there are so many things that came out of just saying yes to trying new things, to trying this experience. And I would be doing myself a disjustice and the listeners of the podcast a disjustice if I didn't talk about what came from this. So like, what I want to be clear about is I'm not going to tell you, if you are going head up with this fear of, I want to try XYZ thing, but I feel like I might fail and I feel like I might look like a fool. I can't specifically tell you what is going to happen, like as far as the actual outcome goes. However, what I can tell you is what the overall things are that you are going to gain. And I can tell you, not one of them is bad. Some of them might be uncomfortable, yes, but none of them are bad. And so that's what we're going to talk about. And I just want to call a point to this once again, is just this idea of how you're describing fear. What is your definition of fear? My definition of fear is that fear is my green light. Anytime I feel that rumble in my tummy, that point of discomfort, I know that that's where my growth is at. That is where I need to be to show myself that I can and that it's totally possible. And so this is a great opportunity for you to sit there and think about, what is my definition of fear? How do I view it in my life? Is it a positive thing? Is it a negative thing? Do I not have a definition for it? How is it overruling my decisions? Such good questions to ask yourself to create that internal conversation, to then therefore figure out, is it positively or negatively impacting your life? And how is it impacting how you see yourself, your success, your goals? Such a great question. So I just want to start there. And if you feel like you need to pause and think about that, please take the liberty in doing that before continuing on. But with that being said, let's talk about what comes from stepping into the unknown. And I also want to make a note here on courage, because it takes a lot of courage to step into fear and to step into something that you don't know what's going to happen. And I heard something absolutely brilliant the other day on a podcast about what courage is. Courage is not merely just being able to step up to the plate. What courage is the ability to try and being able to trust yourself that you will therefore be able to handle what comes after. And tell me that's not beautiful, right? It's being able to trust yourself that if I try, that I know that I trust myself enough that I will be able to handle whatever comes afterwards. And who knows, maybe what comes afterwards is freaking amazing. Or maybe it's louder, maybe it's really freaking hard. But if you trust yourself enough to try to therefore learn and grow and become better, merely by just knowing that you're going to be able to handle it no matter what happens, that alone is such a huge step forward. And so maybe another great opportunity to redefine what courage looks like for you. Maybe you take that definition of it's not just, I'm going to go do it. It's just this idea of trying and trusting yourself that you will be able to handle whatever comes after. Right? And not creating stories around what comes after, good or bad, just merely, I trust myself enough to know that I can handle what comes after, because I've made it through 100% of my hardest days. I'm still here fighting and I can do this, right? So with that being said, Again, I can't guarantee that there's going to be specific outcomes that come for you, but I can guarantee that these things will show up for you in some capacity. And the first one is that your relationships will change for the better. And these relationships are not just relationships with other people, but also the relationship that you have with yourself. And so let's start with other people. When I said yes to this, I basically gained a community. I gained a community at Sierra's Fitness of so many talented rock stars, but also just amazing people. And I get goosebumps because I'm like, I just added so much value to my life and depth to my life because of the people that I got so close with and just had so much fun with while doing this, right? I just think about, my workout, my favorite workout buddy, Dave, and like the fact that like now we're going to run a race later this year. We're thinking about a couple of races later this year, and just like we've gotten really close, and all of these people have made me a better athlete, but have also just made me a freaking better person and have allowed for me to see what I'm capable of, and then allowed for me to call myself out on my shit. So think about how beautiful that is by saying yes to the unknown, that what might come from it is a community of people that love and see you for who you are and are able to elevate you to that next level. Then on the flip side of that, to think about the relationship that you're going to build with yourself, right? If you have that courage to try and realize that you can trust yourself to handle what's on the other side, think about the relationship that you're building with yourself, with your belief, with your trust, with your self-talk. It's going to completely change when you step into the unknown and you show yourself in some capacity that you can take a step forward. Not all the steps are going to be perfect. Not all the steps are going to be ideal. But by merely doing step after step after step, you're going to put a little coin of confidence into that self-trust bucket every single time, right? So think about not the outcome, but think about the relationships and the things that are going to come from those relationships merely by just saying yes to the unknown. That's the first thing that I can guarantee you will come from this. The second thing that I can guarantee you will come from saying yes to the unknown is you are going to navigate uncomfortable situations, right? There is no doubt about that. And I don't say that in a way to scare you. I say that in a way to make you excited. Because we know that if growth is where the discomfort is at, you are automatically signing yourself up for growth. You are automatically signing yourself up for this path to learning the lessons that you need to learn in order to get you to that next level, but also that is going to help you build the character that's going to get you to those greater heights and beyond. So by signing up for the unknown, by stepping into it, you are also, as a byproduct, signing yourself up to get better at navigating the uncomfortable, which only leads to incredible things. Learning more about yourself, learning more about what's important to you, learning so many life lessons that are going to take you so much further than if you just stayed in your beautiful little comfort zone, right? So that is something I can guarantee you that's going to come from saying yes to the unknown. Another thing that I can tell you that's going to come from the unknown, it is going to highlight the weakest links in your life. And by weakest links, I mean just about anything from where you spend your time to the people that are in your life, like quite literally everything. It's going to get addressed. So if you don't fully know what those are, by stepping into the unknown, you're going to start to figure those out. You're going to start to figure out what isn't working for you, what actually isn't serving you. And if you listen to those and if you welcome those with an open heart, oh my gosh, imagine what groundwork you could lay and the progress that you will make in so many different parts of your life just through that alone. You will never be able to do that or sniff out the weakest links in your life if you are constantly staying in the comfort zone. I can guarantee that for sure too. So if you really want to know how to make your life better, if you really want to know what it takes to get to the next level, if you really want to see that result or that improvement, then you have to go and highlight those areas in your life that just aren't working. You have to bring them forth and you have to tackle them head on. And that only comes from saying yes to fear, from saying yes to getting uncomfortable. The next thing that I can guarantee you that will come from getting uncomfortable is it is going to bring about clarity to what your next best step is. And I want you to let that sink in for a little bit. It is going to bring you the clarity that you need for that next best step. We are so worried about having this lack of clarity, this inability to see exactly what's going to happen, the how to behind what's going to happen. And therefore that gives us fear, right? Because we think, well, what if we fail? What if it doesn't happen in the most ideal way? But we have to realize that it's actually when we take the step into the unknown that we start to gain the clarity that we've been seeking this entire time to everything that was meant to be. So yes, that first step might be through a little bit of fog. You might have to wipe some residue off the windshield. But what I can tell you is that things are going to get clear, right? Just like highlighting the weakest links, it's also going to highlight your next best step. But if you stay in the comfort zone, you will never see what you are capable of, and you will never get to see that yellow brick road path of how to get there. And I guess I even shouldn't say yellow brick road because it won't go that way, but you're never going to give yourself the chance to see what that path could look like. So don't be afraid of not having clarity. Feel confident that once you take the first step, that clarity is going to come as a byproduct as long as your mind and your heart is open to receiving, right? The last thing that I want to share with you as far as what is going to come from stepping into the unknown is that it is going to teach you how to not let the last step impact the current one that you're on, which in a nutshell is how to be present. One of the best things that this competition series has taught me is that, for example, this last weekend when I competed on Friday night, there was a circumstance where I was leading the back half of the workout where we did the mile-long tank push. I came in about 10 to 15 seconds after first place. I caught up to her. I was about a minute and a half going into the last little part of the workout, which wasn't very little. It was a 400-meter farmer's carry, which is 4 times the amount that I do in a normal DECA, and it was with sandbags instead of dumbbells, and it was around the entire building. And if you dropped the sandbags, you had to leave them where they were at, run all the way around a building until you got to them again, and then you could pick up and start them again until you finished the whole carry. And so when I did the simulation for this, I went unbroken with the sandbag carry. I have pretty strong grip. I have pretty strong shoulders, and I was feeling very confident. So I took a little bit of a rest after my mile-long run, realizing I just need to get everything, flowing back to my arms and to my hands and just feel good about crushing this last thing. And I did that, and I thought that it was very smart. And about 3/4 of the way through, as I was turning around one of the last corners before I was starting to go into the gym, I dropped the bag. My left hand just randomly gave out, and I had to go and run around. I ended up getting past because one of the girls ended up going unbroken, and I got past and probably got in like 15 to 20 seconds later than she did. And I was like so crushed because I was like, I had that workout. Like that was mine to lose, and I lost it in the last few seconds. It'd be one thing if I was chasing, but I literally lost it when it was mine to lose. And I had never really been in that situation before because, again, you guys, like you kind of heard like the last couple of weeks, I don't win. Winning is a new concept to me. It is very foreign. And so this was like one of those first gut-wrenching moments of like, but only if I had done this better, right? In that sort of capacity. I've had that in other capacities, but this was the first time I felt that. And so what that moment allowed for me to do was to teach myself how to stay present on the current step and then not look back towards the other steps and let that impact the one that I'm taking right now. It is one of the most incredible gifts that I think that, for example, golfers are really good at. I have a golfer client that I train, and we talk about this all the time, is like they have to get so good at taking a shot, and whatever happens in that shot, it's gone. Right? You just have to adapt and adjust and leave that last hole behind you type situation so that you can focus on the one that you're in and you can do the best thing, because you're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes, but the best of the best adjust on the fly. And if they're consistently allowing for the last step behind them to impact the step that they're on, they are never going to grow. They are going to continue to decline, and they're never going to reach their full potential. And so what stepping into the uncomfortable does is it gives you the opportunities to seek out those circumstances where something happens, you have to adjust, you have to adapt, and you have to learn how to get really freaking present on what it is that you're doing right here and right now, and not creating all of those stories in your head about what's going to happen like that you have to do XYZ. You just get super present on, this is what I have available right now. This is the step that I need to focus on. This is what I'm going to give. And I'm just going to go step after step after step. It is super freeing and it's amazing. And I'm so grateful, even though it still sucks, right? I still am like, oh, dang it. I'm so grateful for it because again, these are the circumstances that are building me for the elite athlete that I will be by the end of the season, racing in Deca Strong World Championships Elite Wave. I'm calling it right now. And I told people that on Instagram that next day as I got on there and I talked about this. I was like, this situation is going to be the reason why I race elite at the end of the year. It wasn't because I failed, and I put that in quotes, like quotations. It wasn't because I failed and took second place as the reason because, I have to work harder. It's the mindset around I have to learn how to adapt and adjust, realizing that not everything is going to go as planned. And that is okay. So guys, if there is anything that I hope that this podcast gave you today, it is that the unknown is exactly where it is that you need to be. It is calling you so hard right now. So with an open heart and with an open mind and the courage to just try and know that you can trust yourself, that you will be able to handle whatever it is that comes on the other side, I promise you, there is so much more waiting for you on the other side of saying yes to the unknown. Thank you guys so much for showing up for you today, and I hope that this episode truly helped. If it did, please be sure to send this to a friend or a family member that absolutely needs to hear this. Save the podcast for your future listens whenever you need to hear these messages, or rate and review the podcast if you have not done so already. Until next time, you guys, I got Deca Fit coming up this weekend. I'm so terrified, but you know what? This is it. This is what stepping into the unknown looks like. And so I can't wait to report back to you on how it went and all the lessons I learned from that next week when I see you for another episode of Talk About It Tuesday. See you then.